it's always good to catch up with my good friend and House of Representatives member Gary Palmer. I've known Gary for well over a decade now. I know him to be a good man, and in the interest of full disclosure, I'm going to tell you, I am friends with Gary Palmer. But we might disagree on this subject, but I know that he's one of the more knowledgeable individuals about the threat that China is to the United States of America, both short-term and long-term, which is why I thought to call him and invite him on the show yet again. Congressman Gary Palmer joins us. He is a 6th District Representative from the state of Alabama. He's also in leadership in the Republican Party in the House of Representatives. Hey, Gary, how are you?
Hey, Matt, I'm shocked that you have any haters on your show. Shocked.
You know, new city, same old story, Gary. Well, you know that. You know, if you're not hating, then you're not motivating. Haters are motivators. So let's. I think we might disagree on this, but you have the ability to educate me on this, Gary. The issue yesterday involving TikTok. I understand the concerns. I understand the oversight. I understand all of those things. But as I posted on social media, a government that has the amount of power that would grant them the ability to kill TikTok is the same government that will have the power to kill X or Facebook or any other social media platform that they deem, quote unquote, a national security threat. Tell me how I'm wrong here.
Well, I think that it's conflating the issue a bit. And TikTok is totally different from X, Facebook, or the Matt Murphy show, for that matter, in that it literally is a threat to our national security. And we had tons of high schoolers calling in leading up to the vote. And Matt, here's one of the things you might find interesting. They knew that the ages of these young people, these kids, so they shut off their TikTok app. And the way the kids could get it turned back on is that if they called a member of Congress, and as soon as the member's office answered, a staffer answered, their app came back on. Now, that should be of concern to everybody, that they know that much about you, and they have the ability to know that when that phone is answered in a congressional office, the app comes back on. The other thing that and I can't go into the classified stuff, but I can tell you stuff that's in the public domain, is that, as you know, TikTok is owned by ByteDance. And I heard some folks try to explain that it's not a Chinese-owned company. It doesn't have to be. The laws under the Chinese Communist Party are that any Chinese company must deliver their information, their financial information, their data collection to the Chinese government upon request. And the Chinese government instituted a policy known as golden shares, where the Chinese Communist Party can buy shares of a company, and in the case of most of them, it's 1%. But that gives them the ability to put a member of the Chinese Communist Party on their board. So you have a guy named Wu Shutang, who you can look him up. It's spelled WSHUGANG, on the ByteDance board. He then hired the guy that they call the editor-in-chief, who was in charge of censorship of the internet in China. Within the corporate office of ByteDance, they have their own Communist Party group. There are 138 employees who are members of the Communist Party. And Matt, I think you know this without me saying it, but China is the existential threat to the United States and to the free world. And this is a huge problem. And like I said, I can't go into the classified information, but I had no hesitation whatsoever in voting for a bill that says ByteDance must divest TikTok in order for it to continue to operate in the United States, and they have 6 months to do it.
Now, I'm gonna ask you a question, and Gary, you and I know each other a long time. We're friends, and you've never shied away from strongly expressing your opinion, even if I disagree with you. And I just want to say that up front for people that have never heard us talk before.
Yeah.
But the same House of Representatives that voted to reauthorize our own government's ability to spy on American citizens through FISA is saying that the Chinese can't. So this is the same group of people that voted to authorize FISA to be able to spy on us.
Well, we didn't authorize FISA to spy on American citizens in violation of your Fourth and Fifth Amendment.
They have been. They most certainly have been.
They have done it, and we're trying to first of all to stop that. And what happened with FISA in December is that it was reauthorized through the end of April. The FISA reform bill is being worked on now, has not yet been brought to the floor. But we're going to try
so
to make sure
we're working on that.
That doesn't happen again.
We're working on that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I talked to Speaker Johnson about it, and he assured me that we're going to resolve this in the right way. But FISA is there, the intent of FISA, and especially with the open border, is there to protect us from people with ill intent. What China's doing, and this is, since you brought it up, it's amazing to me that people raise concerns about the possibility of our own government having access to their data without their knowledge, but they don't mind China having it. That's just incomprehensible.
No, I want to make the decision as to who gets my who is authorized to access my information. I don't want the government making that decision for me.
Well, I don't want anybody to have it.
Well, I don't either, and I don't either, and I think
committing a crime.
I agree that it's best practice. Here's what bugs me about it, and maybe you can help me, right? So I remember way back in the day, my grandma telling me that I wasn't supposed to do so. I would never question my grandfather, by the way. Otherwise, you feel the wrath of Pa. You know my granddad. So, but my grandmother would tell me to do something, and I would say, well, why do I have to do that? And she would say, because I say so. And in this conversation about TikTok, we're told that TikTok is a real and present danger to national security. And when I ask what that real and present danger is, I'm told the same thing. I can't tell you. Can you tell me what the real and present danger to national security would be, even if China has access to my phone?
I cannot tell you. Well, you're not a clear and present danger to our national security. It's not you, Matt. And I don't do TikTok, so it's not me. You don't. The thing is it is the aggregate data, and it is certain information that they get from certain people that could cause a massive problem for us. But the aggregate data is the problem. If you were the only one on TikTok, I wouldn't care if China had your data. If they want to know what Matt Murphy's up to, they just listen to your show. But it's.
But what, I mean, help me.
Obviously, we can't talk about classified information in a public forum.
But help me, I mean, and I'm not asking you to do that. And Mark, Congressman Green, who I know is a friend of yours and he's a friend of the shows, he got frustrated with me because he thought I was asking him about classified. I'm not doing that. I am trying to, I'm trying to ask for help to understand how this would work, that it would be a national security threat, even if the worst of the worst is happening through TikTok, and TikTok manages to access data on my phone that I allow them or authorize them to access through the app. I mean, we're not talking about content on the app. We're talking about the back channel stuff that they're able to get to because I have the app. I just don't understand how we make the leap from my personal data being compromised to that becoming a national security concern.
Well, I think that it starts with your entry to this discussion with you, and that you and I have known each other for 10 years, and I'm trustworthy.
I do.
I would not do this if I didn't think it was absolutely necessary. And I'm not going to share classified information. At some point, maybe that we'll be able to do that. But what people need to understand is that if this were just, think about this. I don't know. I haven't verified this, but I've been heard that there's been a package put together, private investors, to pay $160 billion to ByteDance to divest TikTok. But the Chinese Communist Party has blocked it. This is not like any other company that in the United States. The way things operate in China are totally different. And you think about it, if that company had any sense, had any liberty to make decisions in terms of investments and capital expenditures and what's best for the company, they'd take an offer like that.
The problem with and this is not personal between you and I, it's more broadly what we're hearing is just trust us. We can't tell you, but trust us. The problem, Gary, is that we've done that in the past and we've seen the abuses. I was a supporter of the Patriot Act, but sadly I've seen the manner in which the Patriot Act has been abused against the American population. And so I don't suggest that you would do it. I don't suggest that those that I trust, conservatives that I trust in Washington, D.C. would do it. But I would suggest that the same type of principles might be used not to protect the Americans, but to abuse that power to potentially infiltrate our... I mean, I know that I'm asking the same question a different way, but I'm just trying to figure out how in the world we go from, oh, China got some stuff on your phone, to that is endangering the security of the United States of America. And maybe I just don't get the technology involved. I don't know.
I would say most of what people put up doesn't, but in aggregate, what they're doing and how they're influencing people is an enormous problem, Matt. And again, and you can't conflate it with the abuses of a few people in the federal government. I'm doing everything I can to help President Trump get reelected.
Me too.
To deal with the abuses that have taken place, and not just in the Department of Justice and their intelligence community, but across the board. But I just think that people need to, and I'm asking you to trust my judgment on this, because this is not something I take lightly. You know that I'm in some respects libertarian in my views about privacy, but not to the degree that you are, but no, but I mean, and you understand that we're talking about the same. And I know the government's a big thing, and I get accused sometimes of wagging my finger at the wrong people, but I'm dealing with a government that allowed, and it's the executive branch that allowed a Chinese spy balloon to traverse the entire continental United States of America. I'm dealing with a federal government that currently allows for almost 90% of all of our pharmaceutical companies to go through China. I mean, aren't our pharmaceuticals made over there? The things that we put in our body. So I know that. I mean, GE Appliance. Most of our pharmaceuticals are made in India with ingredients
supplied by China.
The majority of the ingredients that come from China. But you were about to hit on something about GE. The issue that we have that is a national security issue that people don't even realize is we're relying on China for critical minerals and rare earth elements that none of our electronics will work without.
Well, that's true.
We have I said this a little while ago. The existential threat to the country and to the free world is not climate change. It's not NIL, for that crying out loud, for all those football fans that think it is. It is China. And,
all right.
and we're going to sleep at the wheel.
Hold your thought for just a second. Gary Palmer's with us. I have the utmost respect for Gary, even if we might disagree on this. And I feel like we're disagreeing on it because Gary says that there are certain things that he can't tell me from an intelligence or security standpoint. And that's fine. I respect that. It's 1:23, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Quick timeout. Back in a moment. Right now, a few more moments with our good friend, Congressman Gary Palmer, discussing that TikTok situation. And you know what? The reaction has been very similar to mine, Gary, and that is, I understand where you're coming from. I have all the respect in the world where you're coming from, but just walk me through what you would recommend the best case scenario would be with regard to TikTok. And I know a lot of people are focused on the content. I'm not focused on the content. You can get, 2-minute stupid videos of people falling down anywhere. But your suggestion is if the company ByteDance divests control of this and sells it to someone else that do not have ties to China, then that would be government hands off at that point?
Yeah, this has absolutely nothing to do with content. I mean, if people want to do stupid things, and other people are willing to watch it and pay them something for it, that's their business. But it's the conduct of the company and the control that the Chinese Communist Party has over this. And you've got young people out there that think communism's just fine, Matt. They don't care. They have no idea, when you talk about a threat to our national security, what that even means.
Well, we don't have, wait, I don't mean to interrupt you, Gary. We don't have any idea what that means because y'all won't tell us. I've asked you 14 times what the national security threat is, and you can't tell me that you can't tell me.
I can't tell you. I can't even tell Ann.
Well, then how are we supposed to know?
Well, at some point, Matt, you've got to trust us. My number one job as a member of Congress is your family's security, my family's security, the security of this state and nation. And I cannot, at any level, forget that. And that's what we're trying to do. When it comes out of committee 50-0, that ought to tell you something, because I'm on that committee. And I was in that classified hearing with the Democratic colleagues on that committee, and we don't agree on hardly anything. But we understand the clear and present danger that this presents for us. So if ByteDance divests itself of Tic Tok, as long as they don't sell it to Russians or Iranians or North Koreans, they sell it to a non-adversary, we're good with that. And people can have that, and they can post videos of people falling off the balcony. That's their business.
I wish
it's not
that,
about the content, it's about the conduct.
I wish it were just you that you were asking me to trust, but it's not. You're asking me to trust the FBI, and I do not. You're asking me to trust the NSA, and I do not. You're asking me to trust the CIA, and I do not, Gary. I do not trust any of those organizations, and they broke that trust. I didn't break that trust. They broke that trust, and it's up to them, those organizations, and by extension, you guys, to rebuild that trust for the American people. And sadly, it has been broken to the point that the vast majority of the American people do not trust you when you say trust us.
Yeah, well, you do not want to wait until a bunch of people get killed.
Well, and once again, nobody knows what that means. Nobody knows what that means.
A number of things. It could mean we wind up in war with China, and some of these kids getting drafted. I don't know.
Well, look, I believe in you. I do not believe in some of those organizations that I mentioned, and I don't know that they've broken down certain areas of that trust, and hopefully Donald Trump becomes president of the United States. Hopefully, we get to the bottom of some of that nonsense that's been going on over the past 6 or 8 or 10 years and beyond, and hopefully we rebuild some of that trust that's been lost with the American people.
Well, just remember that Donald Trump, when he was president, wanted to deal with TikTok while he was still in office. So he understands it. I understand it. And I just hope people will understand that we're trying to protect them, trying to protect this country. And you're right. Our intelligence agencies and our Department of Justice has abused its authority and its power, and it's got to stop, and they got to be held accountable. But that's totally separate from what we're talking about right here.
I do not understand, and I don't want to belabor it, and you've made your point, and it's well spoken by you, and I know I've got to go, and you do too. But
all right.
Gary, let me just say one thing. I do not understand what the harm is in trying to help the American people understand what the threat is. And everyone that's spoken about this matter acts as if they even speak it, that it's going to cause some calamity that's going to cause people to die. And if you would just be honest, not honest, but open with the American people in a way where we understand the threat that you're talking about, I think you'd have a lot more people on your side.
Well, let me just say this real quick, is when we start talking about stuff that we get in a classified setting, once the enemy finds out that we know what we know, then they start looking at how did we find out. And then you compromise assets, whether it's a human asset or a technical asset. So there's some things that you just cannot tell people in a public setting because there are other factors involved. So, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, Gary, it's a good conversation. It's a good back and forth, and I appreciate the exchange as always, and I appreciate your friendship. We'll talk again very soon, my friend. Take care.